Those of you who've actually had sex with a friend's mom or dad, how did it go down? Her daughter dumped me for a guy she didn't like and I fell on hard times with my mom. So I would occasionally go over there to shower and eat something. She was in her 40s. Very thin but had a very nice face and was always very nice to me. I was 18 and always very complimentary to her and thankful for her helping me out. She was helping me without her daughter's knowledge as well. One day our hug goodbye got really long. She wouldn't let go. But she wasn't doing anything else. Just hanging on very tight. Being 18 and because of our relationship, it developed an instant erection. I guess she felt it and nuzzled closer. I started kissing her neck. Pulled her dress up. I guess her husband didn't really pay attention to her. Something I didn't notice or pay attention to while I was dating her daughter. We went at it for a few hours as the house was empty. She must have been pent up. It was honestly surreal. It didn't set in for a few days. My ex and my friends were all intertwined. I couldn't tell anyone and never have. Happened a few more times until I had my life in order and it seemed like she was starting to regret cheating on her husband. Would only let me come inside of her. Which blew my mind as I had been constantly pulling out of her daughter for fear of the obvious. It definitely made being dumped by my first girlfriend a lot easier to deal with. When I was 20, the friend in question's mom could get us into a bar her friend owns. Every week me and 3 friends would go and she would buy every drink and be over all of us. One night after her son crapped out early I just said the hell with it, went along with it when we got back to the house. She was hot for a mom but a dead fish in bed, so it felt really underwhelming to say the least. Anyway, she made me breakfast the next morning. Blew me real fast and took me home all before he woke up. To this day the friend I'm pretty sure knows but we don't talk about it. Friend of mine slept with my sister and kept making a big deal about it. I honestly could have cared less. And his mom was always making offhand s-word comments when I was around her, so I decided to go for it. She had him when she was 16. We were around 18-19. So she wasn't old and still looked pretty good. Came through one day knowing he wasn't there after flirting with her pretty hard for a few weeks and she almost immediately jumped my bones. We slept together for a while after and neither of us ever said a word about it. It was fun while it lasted and I didn't stay friends with the guy for other reasons. But anytime he mentioned that he slept with my sister, I had the satisfaction of knowing his mom was extremely into ATM and fricked like a champion. A2M, ATM, since people wanna be anal about it. Leaving the other one cause I couldn't care less. I didn't know he was her dad. He was just someone I was sleeping with, but one night when we were out driving, we drove past my old high school and he mentioned that his daughter went there. I made the connection with the surname and asked. He confirmed. I know a girl who cheated on her BF of 5 years with his dad. She and the dad are married now. Not a friend, but a bully. He bullied me for being queer, so I fricked his dad. I made damn sure he could hear me screwing his dad. The bullying stopped. His parents were already heading for a divorce and I just pushed them closer to a divorce. Now they are separated and now he is married to a nice man. So he wasn't really a friend per se. I used to buy weed off him in my mid-20s and he was about 20 and lived with his mom. She was late 40s. Definitely our trash of an material. Went by once and he was just leaving. His mom asked if I wanted to drive her to the bar. Turns out she had had a few and currently had a breathalyzer in her car. I knew I was getting late whether I wanted it or not. Anyway. Fun night. Never went by there again. I had sex with an ex-girlfriend's mom. She broke up with me and a couple of weeks later I ran into her mom in the grocery store. Her mom commented that she missed me being around and I said I missed her too. She was a pretty cool mom. She told me that her divorce got finalized. Her sister was going to move in and some other small talk type stuff that we both shared as we walked around the store. I helped her put her groceries in her car and she hugged me. She told me I should come over sometime and see her new paintings. She was an artist. I went over a week or so later and she served me some wine and basically seduced me and introduced me to roleplay at the same time. We did mommy son incest roleplay and fricked. My god, it was so hot. We saw each other for over a year and then she moved. I miss her sometimes. Here is my story about sleeping with my best friend's mom. I needed a place to stay. So I rented my best friend's room while he was away. I was a very good tenant. I always paid his rent on time, kept the house clean, and helped out with the man jobs around the house. It was about 6 weeks after I moved in when I was having different thoughts about her. My demeanor changed. My sentences were short and I couldn't keep eye contact. She started to make risque double entendre and I would get visibly red. She had divorced her husband back when we were still in lower school and never really found time to start another relationship. So the thought kind of turned her on, I guess. So one night, when I came home late from a party a little tipsy, she let me know she knew. I was quite embarrassed at first, but she told me it was alright and to take off my pants and lie down. I lay down on the couch, and she grabbed my ankle and knee and began tugging it towards herself. Double quote. "What are you doing?" I asked. Double quote. "Pulling your leg," she answered. Just like everyone reading this post. Not SX, but at a good friend's wedding. I was saying goodbye to everyone and decided to do the kiss on the cheek thing with his mom. And she was thinking the same thing. We ended up kissing on the lips. Don't do that anymore. I always had the hots for her. And when I was 16 we made out at New Year's. Nothing happened except some decent text messages and one other makeout session for another year. And I moved away. Fast forward 4 years and I'm 21 and living back in my hometown. She had 3 kids, all my age. And we hung out occasionally. We got drunk one night and I promised my friend I wasn't gonna bang his mom. Well, she started cuddling up close to me and it was game over. 10/10 would bang again. I was 18 and my GF and I went to the zoo with her mom and my GF ended up throwing some kind of temper tantrum. Since her mother drove, it was an awkward car ride home. I wouldn't even talk to her. And I looked over and she was giving me a death stare and said, "Do you want to break up?" I sat there for a second and her mom said she was going to drop her, my GF, and drive me the rest of the way home. I said yeah I do. She dropped her daughter off and drove me home. I joked that my plan to get to her via her daughter had worked. She laughed at that and said I'd be lost and have no idea what to do with her. I blushed so hard at that and she saw it. It took me a few minutes to gather my thoughts and figured, frick it, I'm going to flirt. Her mom, since the day I met her, would always wear tighter shirts and hiffigging jeans around me. She was a recently divorced woman who may have been lonely. Who knows? So I made a flirty comment about her looking fitter every time I came over. We get back to my house. My parents aren't there and she had joked about taking the day off to come and use my pool. So I used that and said, "It's a great night for night swimming." I fully expected her to just laugh and tell me to get out. But she said okay, and there I was with my now ex-GF's mother in my pool. She's in her undies and we are making out. The following weekend my now ex went to her dad's for the weekend and I stayed the weekend with her mother and we messed around. It went on for a few weeks more but broke it off when her daughter started suspecting it. I don't regret it and we both had a lot of fun. Edit. Yes, we fricked. I dated this girl right after school, but it didn't work out. A couple of years later, we started talking again and became friends. Which means I was still trying to frick her but with no luck. One day, she ghosted on me when we were supposed to hang out. She called me later and asked me to come over again. When I got there, she was an emotional wreck. Turns out, she was hanging out with her best friend's dad and they wound up fricking like rabbits. Why she was hanging out with her friend's dad, I'll never know. Her friend found out and called her a SLT and ended their friendship. I thought it was a pretty shitty thing to do. Plus I was pissed off about some old guy fricking this chick I was trying to nail myself. So I just let our friendship die off. That was 20 plus years ago. Don't miss her. I went from a known screw up to the guy with his shitty together. At least in my town. I graduated, joined the military, Got out and started a business. After my business stabilized a few months ago, I went home and visited an old HS friend who's mooching off of his mom. Just like his dad. Anyway, the friend invited me over for dinner, but I showed up early and he ended up flaking. So mom, dad and I had dinner together. It got pretty tense because dad didn't like me too much. He thought I was home just to show off my new life, kind of was. And he didn't care to hear about it at all. But she wouldn't stop asking me about it, causing him to get super annoyed and leave. Our conversation carried on into the evening, and my friend finally stumbled in clearly drunk. His mom just looked embarrassed and disappointed. I took him up to his room and tucked him into bed. When I came downstairs, she hugged me, telling me how proud of me she was and that watching me turn out like this was heartwarming. She was the first person to say anything of the sort. Since to my parents I'm still a screw up. While hugging, my lips touched her neck and she squeezed me closer. From there you can all figure out what happened next. I was still home for a few more days after that, and since my parents didn't appreciate my presence, I stayed with them. Interestingly enough, staying with them made the dad warm up to me. As of now, no one else knows except my business partner and the lovely people of Reddit. I was 23 and she was 44. Her son and I were friends and in college together. She was 5 feet 2 inches. Thin. Really cute and originally from the Dominican Republic. She had always kind of flirted with me. But I just thought that's all it was. I was wrong. A bunch of us got together and went out to have dinner on Monday. And she went with us. We all had fun and went back to her house. Her son and his girlfriend went to bed, and before I was able to get out the door, she asked me to sit beside her by the fireplace. She leaned her head on my shoulder and looked up at me and asked, "Do you want to?" Couldn't say yes fast enough. She and I dated for 2.5 years. As a bonus, I learned a good deal of Spanish from her. Ooh, I can answer this. I actually met the dad first through drunken shenanigans and a different friend, and I ended up moving in with him, using certain parts of my body to subsidize my rent. And then I met his daughter and she became one of my best friends. She didn't find out about the dad stuff for almost a year. She needed a small break from our friendship when it first came out, haha. We're still friends now though.